Hey people of the VC, it's Andy Cloudy Milder. It's about time I put in an entry for MetalMickey's 500 subs contest. It's getting closer to 550 now. We had a massive spike in subs with this contest, Mike. Lots of great entries I've seen already, so all thoroughly deserved. If you watch my channel, you should know Metal Mickey. If you don't, rectify that now with the old link below nonsense and get yourself acquainted. He's a complete natural in front of the camera. There's no pretense, no bullshit. It's the most straight up guy you'll ever come across on YouTube. My prediction, Mike, you will get to 700 subs before me, I think, because your channel is so good and you have such a natural way speaking with people that they connect with, that your channel will continue to grow and well deserved too. So 5 questions, and I'm going to try and do these from memory because I haven't written them down. So the first one was, name a band you think should have got more attention than they actually got. I'm picking Raven. Now, Raven were one of the early big hitters in the new wave of British heavy metal movement, and they trailblazers. They influenced so many bands, including thrash bands, with their kind of aggressive, full-on power trio heavy metal. They were off to a flying start with Rock Till You Drop. Wiped Out kept the pace up. All for One, great album. I don't actually. That's the one of their albums that I'm desperate to get hold of. And it kind of they were on the crest of the wave by the time they got to Live in the Inferno. Then they got the big break that they desired. They got so all these the first 4 albums were all on Neat Records, and then they got their big break. They signed to Atlantic, and then it all went wrong. Atlantic decided that despite being in a bidding war with other record companies, they decided that they knew better, and they were going to break Raven into the US and play a more commercial US metal sound, and that's where it went wrong for them. They're not a commercial US metal group. They lost a lot of their early fan base, and even though eventually when they got out their Atlantic contract they went back to what they knew best, by that time though the ship had sailed, and they're still going today, and I'm glad to see they're still going today. I got to see them in Glasgow last year, but it was at a very small venue, and there were only about 30 or 40 people at the most at the gig, and they put everything to it. Absolutely superb set, played all the classics. But it's such a shame that best part of 40 years later, they're still playing to small audiences, small, very appreciative audiences, but small audiences nonetheless. And there's some of the other bands that should have been their peers, like Maiden and Priest and Saxon, that are playing in front of much bigger crowds still these days, and deservedly so. Second question, a band that you think got more attention than they deserve. Now, I don't know if this band got more attention than they deserve, because they are a huge global brand of a band, but it's a band I never really understood why they deservedly took off and became big. I'm not going to deny them that, but I don't necessarily understand how they carried on being so great. And that band is ACDC. Now, I'm not saying they're a bad band. Clearly they're not. They're one of the most popular hard rock bands there's ever been. But I don't kind of get the longevity of their appeal. They've got some great albums. So this is my entire ACDC collection. I think that's the first one I ever bought. Then that's my favourite one, ACDC album. Absolutely love that album. Back in Black, of course, classic, the first one with Brian Johnson on. And then I've got Fly on the Wall and obviously a brilliant live album, Highway to Hell. Now, if I just had these 3 ACDC albums in my collection, that would be enough. I don't need any more. These 2, I had this one because I saw the movie Who Made Who, I think in about 86 was it? Yeah, in 1986, and I've had that this album for what, 33 years now. But it's not a great album. It's a bit of a, I guess, a best of compilation. Fly the Wall has got some good tracks. I mean, Shaky Foundations, and that's the only one really that I can say is fairly decent on there. They're not a band. If I see stuff by them, I always find some other stuff I want to pick up instead. And the fact that Angus Young has been carrying on in the same schoolboy outfit for 40 years, personally I think is a bit ridiculous. Obviously feels it works for him, and lots of people probably like it, and also the fact that they could take out Brian Johnson and put in Axl Rose and carry on as if nothing happened. I don't know, I just don't get it. But hugely successful band, and fair play to them. They've made a bit more money than I have in my career. Question 3 was an album that brings back happy memories. Now, there's been a few of these in my life, but the ones like Live After Death I've talked to death about. First Blind Buy is always a good memory, but Suicidal Tendencies, I've talked about that before. I've talked about this one before, but not for a while. So Anthrax, State of Euphoria. This just takes me straight back to when I was in school. So what year? This was, I can't remember the year now. Was this 86? Scream at me through the screen. I should know this one. 88. Of course, 88. Of course, because I was 17 in 88, and I had the video too. I had that for Christmas. Yeah, so this came out on a school day, and I skipped school to get straight down to Spillers Records in Cardiff to pick this up before they sold out. I got there, so I would have left for school at the normal time, so my parents wouldn't have noticed any difference. But instead of getting on the school bus, I got on a bus into Cardiff city centre, and so I probably would have got there by about 8:30, and the shop probably would have opened about 9 o'clock. But I was determined to be at the front of the queue to pick this up, so it didn't sell out. Of course, there was no queue. I was sat outside a record shop for half an hour. I was the first one in. I picked it up, and I got back to school before assembly had finished. I was probably back in school by about 9:25 past 9. No one had noticed that I'd gone. I was super excited all day. Nobody cared that I bought an Anthrax album because I had no friends that were into metal at all. But I couldn't wait till I got home and spun that record. So it was probably one of the most useless days I had at school because I just wasn't concentrating at all. But every time I look at this album, I just think of the day I nearly skipped school for it, but still got there on time. Question 4 is an album that you have not listened to all the way through, and I was struggling with this one for a while actually, because I've got albums I've not listened to at all. I didn't think that really fitted the criteria, because I took this to be an album that you couldn't make it all the way through. Recent purchases I've talked about, like this Darkstar album, are really not good at all, but especially Records, I will listen to it all the way through, and then I will listen to it all the way through again, even if I didn't like it the first time or I'm struggling to get through it. I always listen to them through twice before I make any sort of decision. In fact, where's it gone? The other record that I bought recently that I said was complete pants, I gave it a third listen to before I stick it. I cleaned it and put it on the shelf, and there are 1 or 2 good tracks on this Runestaff album. It's still bordering on pop than heavy metal, but it's not as bad as I gave it credit to. And if I'd given up after 1 listen, I wouldn't have at least appreciated the 2 or 3 tracks on here that aren't half bad. So I will always listen to something over again. Now, I've only got 1 album that I've bought recently that I haven't made it all the way through, and again I will give it another go. And it's a band that is one of the biggest bands of all time, and one of the most influential bands of all time, but I've never got into them, and it's Led Zeppelin, and this is a Mothership, so it's a compilation, and I thought it was about time I got and listened to and figured what it was all about. And whether I wasn't in the right mood or not, I made it about 5 tracks in. So I listened to Good Times, Bad Times, Communication Breakdown, Dazed and Confused, Baby I'm Gonna Leave You, Whole Lot of Love, and probably as far as Ramble On, and I kind of had enough. Now that doesn't mean to say I will never click with Led Zeppelin. I didn't click till Rainbow until, what, 2 years ago? And I love Rainbow now. I've not clicked with Deep Purple yet, so there's a certain amount of these early 70s bands that I just haven't, my brain hasn't been wired into them yet, and Led Zeppelin's one of them. So I bought this to give them a go and try them out, but if you can see the track listing on there, and you may not be able to, but if you can recommend me a song I should probably pick out more than any others, then I will give it another go. But I will at some point make it through this twice, because that's my rule. And last but not least, question 5 was, Mike is a massive dog lover. He likes dogs more than people. I'm not a massive dog lover. I don't mind dogs, but I couldn't live with one. But you don't want to hear that, Mike. You want to see pictures of dogs. So here is mine. I have gone for, this is Rogue Mail's Animal Man, their second album, and here we have down here a nice cutie looking little pooch on the front. For a better view, let's look at the inside cover, although in black and white, but quite a majestic looking dog there, and clearly the hardest out of all these guys. So there we go. Oh, there's your dog. Rottweiler, I think, probably, or something like that. I don't know. I'm not a dog person, but plenty are. Anyway, congratulations again on your 500, Mike. Couple of great prizes, and I hope I come second. Cheers.